Steph Curry, the past, the present, and the future? Why we need to stop looking at Curry's age and start looking at the alternative of life without him. That's coming up on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, what is good, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Warriors. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Check out the show on YouTube. Check us out wherever you get your audio podcasts. The best way to support us is hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and tell a friend to tell a friend. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com and you'll get 50% off your first year. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into a live edition, or good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening. For those of you on the audio podcast platform of your choice, on today's show, the old but wise Golden State Warriors. The supporting cast, what's it going to look like? And will it have a bunch of high IQ players? That's the big buzzword in the association right now. I'm sure it always has been, but athleticism, talent's still pretty important, but a lot of these words have been replaced with high IQ, understanding of the game, just a deep natural instinct to play the sport of basketball. We're going to get into all these things on today's show, but we're going to start with the past, the present, and why Steph Curry could still be the future slightly. I don't know. It's very difficult to tell because there's nuance to it, A, and B, it's just never happened before. We've never seen a player enter year 39 like Curry's going to be and then have a team that literally is thinking, all right, let's gift him another extension of quite a bit of money. But I want to get into all these things. Curry said on Dubs Talk, with age comes wisdom. He was asked about how frustrating it is to always hear the national noise about you're too old, you can't stay limber enough throughout a season, there are going to be too many injuries. And he said injuries happen to everyone. He said every champion in history has had everything or just about everything go right. And he said with age comes wisdom. We know how to take care of our bodies. We know how to pace ourselves through the course of regular season. We know how to get to the postseason feeling like we have a really good chance to win. And clearly the confidence was there for Draymond Green last year when he expressed during the All-Star game that the Warriors would win a championship. And Joe Lacob and company have came out after the season and said, you know, we thought we could have won one had Steph Curry not pulled that hamstring. So who knows? Steph also said Jimmy, a high IQ dominant player. Draymond knows he's got a lot left in the tank. And he said, quote, we're going to take advantage of it. We're going to get prepared, get on the same page, and hit the ground running. Offseason has not hit the ground running whatsoever. The Warriors still the only team. It's not going to change, right? They're the last remaining team that has not made a move thus far in the association this offseason. But Steph Curry, it's time to 1,000% lean into this. If it's only been 99.9% before, it's time to 1,000% lean into the waning years that are coming up. And a statistic should back up my reasoning why, if the eye test isn't good enough. It's the Warriors' offensive rating last year with Curry on the court, a 118. It was best in the NBA. And with Curry off the court, a 105. That's good for 30th in the NBA. He's still got it, folks. The baby-faced assassin is still ruining folks from Houston's dreams and other teams from around the association as well. If you're a big fan of Pistons regular season basketball, or no, it was Orlando regular season basketball. He ruined your dreams last year when you guys shot at about 60% and Curry put up 50 to beat you. Grizzlies too in a game. I mean, it's what he does. Still such an incredible player. Simply put, the Warriors have this dude still who is legit showing almost no signs of slowing down. Age is just a number, although it's not. I get it. If you want to come with the counter take of, well, Chuck, players don't do this until their mid-40s. It just does not happen. I agree with you. I agree. Has science changed so much in the last couple of decades to where Steph Curry can be a legitimate factor until he's 45? I would probably bet no. I think we're going to start seeing aging eventually. But as of right now, you just take the number away. You throw a dude that's, been frozen for 15 years and he wakes up and you show him Steph Curry and you watch his energy and you watch the way that he moves and the love he has for the game and all these different things. And you say, how old is that guy? He would say, as old as that other guy, pointing to like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, he still has it, folks. And here we are with a dude that still has it and another guy in Jimmy Butler that's awesome. And the Warriors still feel like they're a piece, maybe two pieces away from being serious contenders entering the season. It sucks not being able to rely on your number 2 pick from 2020 or your number 7 pick and really the 14th pick when all those players should be entering their primes. And maybe you can rely on 7 and 14 when it's all said and done. That story is not yet to be fully written. But we can't consistently count on it. Definitely not number 2. He's not coming back in James Wiseman. But the Warriors may be that one player away, and one of these dudes, 7, 2, or 14, was supposed to be the dude, and unfortunately that is not the case, and that is why we're in the situation that we're in of Joe Lacob spending this much patience on Jonathan Kuminga because he has to. He has to. Curry longer term. I'm talking after this 2-year deal. Could he retire? Absolutely. Does he look like a player that's lost any sort of joy? Well, if you would have asked me in January of last year, I would have said, yes, we're nearing the end. But what if the team around him is good? What if the supporting cast is great? What if he's having fun? What if the vibes are high? What if Buddy Hield signs a lifetime contract and Steph just finds him entertaining? I do not know. What I want to break down is Curry longer term. What's the smartest way to attack this thing? We're talking about it. It's coming up on Locked On Warriors. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes. You can see clear data visuals, get smart categories of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. If you forgot about subscriptions, let's say you have like 10 of them, Monarch's going to point out the ones that you have not been using much. It's going to save you money in the process. It'll help you budget for your independent goals. So do not let a financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com when you use that code LOCKEDONNBA. No doubt about it, Steph Curry needs a better supporting cast, as evident by beating the Wolves game 1 and then losing the next 4 without him. I will say, going back and kind of dissecting that game, Wolves shot it terrible. Remember, they were abysmally bad, so bad that you knew the rest of the series they were going to be at least lukewarm because all the bad had been shot from them that game. I think they started off like 0 of 20 from 3. It was brutal. So who knows what that series would have looked like. The Warriors brass, they think that they could have won it with Steph Curry. Longer term, we've almost internally decided as a fan base, it feels like, that Steph's current contract is the end. Like there's no extension coming, and definitely not beyond like a year, right? I mean, maybe when he becomes extension eligible, you add on one more year, but there's not another 3 years of Steph. We're not talking 42, 43 years old. We're talking about life after Steph right now. And Kuminga is still a building block to that next iteration, or rather he needs to be a building block to that next iteration because the number 2 pick was not, and you can't miss on those opportunities twice when you have expensive players. Really ever, but especially when you have expensive players because you got to find some value players. And it's hard to find those dudes in free agency. For the most part, the Warriors going to do their best with Melton, it seems like, and then Al Horford, who's a little bit older, who I think could fit the system as well if that happens. But the issue I have with the last 5 years, and I'm sure you have this issue as well, we keep counting down the end of Steph. We've been doing this since 2019, so I guess 2020. We've been doing this since he got injured pre-COVID. And we're talking 5 years later now, and he's still awesome. Still second team All-NBA. The 2 timelines were they were terrible. It was counting down the end of Steph, essentially, and who was going to be next. Instead of thinking like, hey, who are some supplementary guys when Steph is still the present? Because there's not going to be a next for a while. And I get it. Hindsight's always 2020. But it's terrifying. It is terrifying relying on a player who's going to be pushing 40 by the end of his deal. It's frightening. Certainly. You look at the past and it would be unprecedented if Curry signed it. I mean, LeBron James is doing something that's unprecedented right now. And Curry would, and maybe Durant as well, those guys would try to be the next in line to prove that basketball players nowadays, knowing what we know with science and advancements and how to take care of your body and how to eat and load management and all these different things that go into play, can maybe, just maybe, be effective into their 40s. But it's absolutely frightening, no doubt about it. But Curry's a shooter, an incredible shooter, and could be an incredible bridge to the next rendition of Warriors basketball if he wants to play longer, because he doesn't need to be All-NBA to have an incredible impact. You have 80 million coming off the books aside from him. So if players like Moody, Pods, and some of the other guys that you have are playing competitive ball, they're good players, good to really nice young players. And that's an if. If they are, though, you could still build around Curry being your number 2 and your sharpshooter and your gravitational pull, and you have $80 million coming off the books, and you can get younger. You can do that thing that we've been talking about for years, and that's finding a true number 2 that's young, because that's really the knock on Jimmy Butler right now. In addition to him being extremely expensive, is just he's old. So we're looking towards the end instead of seeing what's right in front of us, and that is with both him and Steph, still awesome players, still winning basketball players. So the way that I'd almost be thinking, and if they would have thought this way the first time back in 2020, they probably would have had players like Drew Holiday or Miles Turner, some real game changers, but they went 2 timelines. And again, hindsight 2020. But Curry's still the timeline. I get that the timeline's aging, and at some point you do have to move on. But you can prepare to move on while assembling the team as if you were going to have him to some capacity, I would think. But then again, that's where it gets dangerous. It feels like there's truly no right answer. I do know there was a right answer 5-6 years ago. It was don't move on so quickly, but that's neither here nor there. Coming up, I hate to say this, but you need better role players around Steph Curry, and the importance of the mental game, IQ in basketball, as compared to just talent and athleticism and some of these other things. How important truly is the IQ of the game, the understanding? That's coming up on Locked On Warriors. All right, let me tell you about some apparel I have on right now. Actually, the shirt is from Doer. It's good stuff. It's light. It's pretty flexible to where I feel like I wear it instead of a button down, but I also can wear it to a restaurant. I can wear it, casually arrive into the gym or something to change. It's just, it's malleable. And the pants, these are my favorite. These are the Doer Performance. I get the slims, but the denim, they got them in a bunch of different colors. It's good stuff, man. You can wear these truly anywhere. They're versatile. If you have not heard of Doer, They've been around for about a decade, and now they're coming to the Bay Area. Yes, Hayes Valley, August 27th. Head on over to 567 Hayes Street. Mention my code Locked On SF in store for 15% off your first order, or go to shopdoer.com/Locked On SF. That's shopdoer, DUER.com/Locked On SF. 15% off online. Trust me, once you try them, you'll never want to wear anything else. With 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, you get the perfect fit without feeling restricted. That is Doer. You'll never want to wear anything else. All right. Well, first of all, happy retirement to John Wall. It's official. I honestly thought he'd been retired for a couple of years now. I completely forgot that he was as effective as he was as recently as he was. And of course, after all the injuries, was never the player that he was, which was second in Rookie of the Year. But he had some pretty, at least scoring wise, some pretty nice seasons late. 2021 with the Rockets, scored 20 a game in his 40. Never really got past 40 after 2017. But John Wall, an incredible career. The number 1 overall pick by the Wizards in 2010, finishes his career playing 647 games. He averaged 18 points and had one of the greatest dances in history. John Wall, shout out. And the reason I bring that up is because just that rookie class that he was in. Like, I look at the Rookie of the Year voting that year, and it was him, it was DeMarcus Cousins, it was Blake Griffin, it was Greg Monroe. Just players that when you go through the box score, or not the box score, but the basketball reference page and check out their careers, it really makes you see firsthand how fragile NBA careers are and how uncontrollable they are. And granted, Wall got to a couple contracts and 28 years of age, whatever it may be, but it can change very quickly. And that's why for Kuminga, you would have to think that making the money when you can and still having the flexibility of youth on your side, whether it's 1 year or 2 years down the road, to me, I think it's a no-brainer, right? Like $18 million, something happens, injury, whatever it may be, like you may be signing 3 years, 20 million, something along those lines. If it goes real wrong, and that's not going to happen. But just saying, 18 million to leave on the table seems like a lot. And those are players that you can point to that life happened, injuries happened, and the trajectory of your career can change quickly, whether it's in your early 20s, whether it's in your late 20s, whether you're one of the best players and faces of the NBA like Blake and John Wall. It doesn't discriminate. It is random. And that is why, to me, fiscally, the fiscally wise person that I try to be, I would have to think that he's bluffing and he will take this contract. But neither here nor there. That's not the conversation that we wanted to get into. One, we need better role players around Steph Curry. I think we all know that at this point. The hope is that internally you have those players, because it feels like we spent a lot of time looking for the next dude, the Giannis, who's going to be the replacement to Curry down the road, or who's going to be that second star, whatever. But Curry's still the dude. He's still going to be the dude for a minute. Jimmy Butler is the contract that currently stands in the way of getting these better role players. So you have to find them internally, and you have to find them creatively. And it forces the Dubs to lean into their homegrown talent, the Pods, the Post, the Moody's, the TJDs. This is the path they've chosen to some degree, because if they aren't good enough, they're stuck. Maybe good enough to compete, but not real contenders, which sucks, because you feel like at the top, you've got a lot of talent. You really wish that 2, 7, and 14 turned into a little more than it did as of today. But again, it's still young. We're holding out faith until the faith is 1,000% gone. And this is why Kuminga has the leverage that he has in this situation, because the Warriors need him, or if not him, if not Jonathan Kuminga, they need his current situation to eventually afford them another player. So when that day comes that Jimmy and Draymond are the free agents, if Steph is extended, even by a year, you know exactly what you need in free agency and the type of cornerstone that it would take to bridge the gap. That's the position that you need to be in and end any talk of life after Curry, because it's life with Curry, and then the second best player, or Curry would be the second best player, I guess, in this situation behind player X. And then when Curry quits, you're in better hands than you would have been. So I think that's kind of the mentality to me, is that you give this 2 years a run for it. We go back to the drawing board in a year with the Curry extension talks, whatever. See what the plan is from his side, because obviously he has to want to do the preparation to get ready for another NBA season. But finding that next dude, because the Warriors didn't find it through the draft, and they're going to potentially have $80 million, assuming that Jimmy and Draymond at that point are not extended or picked up by the Warriors. You can go any route you want, but that doesn't mean you have to move on from Steph Curry, right? You can still make it work financially, you would think, and you still have your shooter. You still have your gravitational pull. You still have your franchise, but he's old. And that is the question that we can't answer. We can't answer. It would be unprecedented, right? If he went another 3 years and was as good as he is, but he just doesn't really show many signs of slowing down. I mean, maybe definitely consistently, right? The consistent output, it's definitely not the same, but like you said, he's wiser. He knows when to push it. He knows when to give it everything he's got. And then he knows there are certain games that you can coast to some degree. And he's in incredible shape. He is in incredible shape. We know that. So are we reaching an era where basketball IQ is going to eventually vault past measurables? Because measurables during the NBA draft combine seem like they are very important. You get Kai Jones, who I actually like, but players to that nature going first round solely off athleticism and potential promise as compared to an understanding of the game and being ready-made basketball players. But you can't teach talent. You can't teach size. You can't teach a James Wiseman-like ability to run the floor, catch the basketball, dunk it, and make it look very, very fluid. Very fluid. But you also can't teach someone the game. Or can you? That's the question that I pose to those of you in the comments. In the sport, at this level, how much is natural acumen and how much, aside from the natural acumen, can be picked up, especially if you started playing basketball later on in life? Because I remember growing up, there were just dudes that would be the same size as you. They'd weigh less than you. They didn't even have as good a jumper without a hand in their face. You know, if you're just shooting standstill, whatever, it felt like you had everything on paper to be better than them when you were comparing yourself on who was going to make it further in tryouts or be up the bench, whatever. And one thing that I always seemed to notice about certain players was they just knew where to be. They knew where to be to get rebounds. They crashed even if they were smaller than other players on the team. They always made the right pass. It seemed like the coaches always loved these players growing up. But when you're young, you kind of look past it. And you really focus on the athletes out there and the size and the ability that one team has to be playmakers, ISO playmakers, whatever. And then as you watch the game and you get older and older, you notice a common theme for teams that win pretty consistently, and the Warriors are a prime example in their best days, are that they just have a bunch of dudes that are on a common mission that fit together. They fit like a glove. They fit in every realm. You know, when you have players that are amazing decelerators like Steph Curry and Brandon Bajemski, they're surrounded by dudes that know when to cut at the right time. And they can knock down the open shots, even if they're not the biggest or fastest dudes in the world. They can stand still and hit the consistent three. Skills in basketball that we overlook sometimes when scouting players, because of the dunk, because of the modern era of basketball where you just feel like that dude's really athletic. He could shoot it all right for his size. He could put it on the deck a little bit. He can do a little bit of everything, and he's got just a very impeccable talent that you can't teach, which is potential. It's a talent of some sort, I guess, right? Potential, the talent that means you haven't done anything yet. But basketball IQ is where it's massive. Baron Davis recently talked about how he wanted to be a Clipper back in the day because it looked fun. Players like Quentin Richardson, Corey Maggette, Elton Brand, Darius Miles, Lamar Odom, throwing lobs, crossing people up, showcasing immense physical talent, but losing. And I'm sure if we went back and looked to some of the teams that they were losing against, they weren't the sexiest teams in the world. Tim Duncan, if you saw him on a playground for 2 minutes, you'd probably pick Lamar Odom or one of the other guys that big fundamental is pretty nice. Terrible comparison there, but you know what I mean. Success isn't always sexy. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a great player to point to. Amazing deceleration skills, pure from the mid-range. He's under control. He knows how to get to the line and understands the game at a high level, knows where to pick his spots, knows where he's supposed to be. And it's easy to look at him now and say, this dude was never going to be a bust. Like, this guy was always going to be awesome. But look at the players that went before him in that draft. Mo Bamba, flashy. Marvin Bagley, flashy. Kevin Knox, a big 6'9" athletic wing, flashy. But things like awareness and IQ and understanding towards the little details, that is what is vital nowadays. And I feel like it's probably always been a massive component to the game, but it does feel like to a smaller scale, we have pointed at athleticism and measurables in recent years is important, when in reality, success isn't always sexy. We know this now. Process things in real time. It's no different than a quarterback in the NFL to some degree. These guys are picked, they're always wrong, it feels like, but they're picked off how far they throw, how fast they run, and how they throw to dudes with nobody guarding them, whatever. But it's never about how quickly they pick up a playbook, I don't think, or their natural acumen to the game, or how quickly they can process things real time. I don't think these are things that, it would be hard to pick up on those things through a pre-draft process. So you're looking at natural talent. And the Warriors were built on drafting smart players. We know this. Draymond Green, a product of taking a smart player over a physical specimen or athlete. And there were players, Perry Jones, players that were, athletes that were waiting right there that teams went before Draymond Green on because of athleticism, measurables, I would imagine. But this is actually an interesting study here. It's a basketball IQ calculator per Crafted NBA. Crafted NBA is the name of the program. And it focuses solely on basketball. So it doesn't matter if you're, making some ridiculous choices off the court. Doesn't matter. As long as you have a spot on the team, you're good to go. Do whatever you want in your free time. Be an idiot. It measures game-specific skills and awareness, like spatial understanding, tactical decisions, playmaking insights. How much do you believe in stats here? It's not an assessment of personal intellect. It doesn't evaluate their general intelligence, like we said, an educational background, cognitive abilities, just basketball scenarios. How much do you believe in statistics? How much do you believe, are you an analytics person? Because if you are, Jimmy Butler is ranked highest basketball IQ in the NBA at a perfect score at 100, along with Jokic. So I guess tied for number one with Jokic. Then Halliburton at a 96, Caruso at a 94, Ben Simmons at a 91, which makes me wonder, because now that our guy who we're logging off and loving on, he's escaping my name right now, but signed with another team. He was 6. Amir Coffey. Amir Coffey. We like that pickup, and he's now off the table. So at this point, there's only so many guys that the Warriors can get. You're landing a pretty clear picture of how their roster is going to look, or at least the players that are going to be involved, because everyone else has been scooped up. Ben Simmons is one of those guys that has a 91. He has a top 5 IQ per this website in the NBA. And if the Warriors have some shooters, which they should around him, does it make sense to have him, making nice passes and playing good defense? That's one thing that Ben Simmons can do. Gary Payton was number 15th on this list, but basketball IQ, I always find it extremely fascinating from the real life situations playing growing up where you were better than someone. You were taller than someone. You were faster than someone. You had a better jump shot. You just felt like you were better at basketball on paper and in any sort of drill, except the drills that required the basketball IQ, because those are the ones that there's certain players that just have a natural understanding of the game, even at a very early age. And that is the way the NBA is shifting right now. Because I mentioned a lot of those guys in the top 10 basketball. I didn't even mention Giannis. He's number 9. Just about every single player, minus Gary Payton, in the top 20 is exactly where you think they'd be. You're like, okay, that makes sense. And Gary's smart. We know that. He knows the ability to spatial awareness. He's very good at that. Tactical decisions. He's solid at that. Playmaking insights, maybe not so much, but he has his limitations, but has gotten where he has gotten through good point of attack defense in his best days. And now just knowing what the coach, knowing what Steve Kerr and the team needs him to do to some degree. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Warriors going to be old this year, going to be very old, but hopefully they're a little bit wiser. And hopefully you are a little bit wiser for tuning into the show today. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. We appreciate you. Peace, everyone. We'll talk soon.